everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And yes, it is true. He is here, music review royalty, honestly. I feel like there are a few guys in this space who have been doing it for so long that, I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness, of one of the GOATs on this platform when it comes to music commentary across the board. As you guys who follow me know, there are a lot of YouTube channels. We have a lot of options across social media currently when it comes to anybody talking about all stripes of music, be it formal reviews, music essays, podcasts, and anything in between. But this man, for years now, well over a decade, has formulated a style, a look, and an aesthetic that truly is all his own. What else am I to say other than just, thank you, Todd in the Shadows, for coming through and, subjecting yourself to this interview.
It's good to finally meet. Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair finally meet. No, I don't really consider myself royalty. I'm just a guy who's been doing it a long time.
I mean, it is, as far as like, look, and this will be a part of our conversation as well, but like, as you already know, like, YouTube careers tend to operate in dog years, maybe pigeon years if you're lucky. Some of the biggest names, people who have hit peaks commercially and views wise that are higher than we'll ever reach to, ended up burning out long before we did. So to be doing it as long as we have, as consistently as we have with people who are passionate about what we do, I think says something,
It's, yeah, I honestly have no idea how I'm still doing this. I think I'm just like, I don't know. I use this quote a lot, but I read somewhere someone say most actors are failed waiters. Like, that's how I kind of feel about this job. I just kind of fail at everything else. Like, this is just the only thing I know really how to do. I do this with the stupid gimmick and everything because I was trying to teach public school at the time when I started this, and I didn't want to follow me around. I lived in a small town.
Right.
So I did this, but like I never really got a full-time teaching job. Because most of my energy was going into the videos. And eventually, after like 3 years, I was like, I guess this is my job now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there are unconscious choices that we tend to make very early on in our media content creation careers that maybe we're not like, putting that much calculation into, and then they just end up kind of slowly being adopted into what ends up becoming our style as it is interpreted by other people. I'll tell you at this point, like, all those flannels that people have, with the color coding system that people have come to know and love, that, we're a regular part of like my wardrobe rotation at the time when I was starting the channel. I don't even wear those anymore unless I'm doing a video. Like I'm not wearing any of those flannels when I'm out and about. And at one time I would, it was just like naturally a part of my style, but it just like kind of became such a thing for people visually in the videos that it just, kind of remains to be just a part of the look as opposed to a part of my regular life.
Yeah. I used to wear gray hoodies all the time. I absolutely don't anymore.
Now it's just become like, the mask essentially.
Yeah,
and when you have it on, it just feels like work.
Basically, yeah. I only own this for work.
So, with that being said, though, I mean, you sort of made this choice early on to, remain as anonymous or as in the shadows as possible. Are there sort of like ups or downs to having kind of made that decision early on that, have kind of become more apparent now that you're like a decade in? Does it seem like, the best choice you could have made at the time to sort of like, present yourself in the way that you continue to?
I like not being hassled, I guess. Like,
right.
I generally don't get recognized unless I'm with other famous YouTubers hanging around them. And if I'm there with them and they get recognized, sometimes people can put it together as like, oh, and you must be Todd in the shadows.
Mm.
Literally the only time I've gotten recognized otherwise was at a Carly Rae Jepsen concert. Literally the only time. Exactly the place.
Really?
Yeah. Exactly the
And
place I was going to get recognized.
this was just based off of look or voice
Yeah, I
or
mean, like my face is out there. Like I don't like go super hiding it anymore, but like
mm.
you have to be like a super stan to know what I look like just off. I mean, people search. I don't like discourage it anymore, but like it's nice to be able to live my life without people being weird about it.
Right. So ultimately the shadows choice, the element of it where you're not putting your face directly on everything that you do, it's
Yeah.
ended up being like more of a freeing option than it is sort of like something that's been constraining in a way.
I mean, it's a little constraining. Like the
Mm.
fact that I'm wearing a mask right now and it's not super comfortable. That's
I mean, after
man,
this conversation, you're going to take it right off, so you'll be good then.
yeah. I could not find where I put this thing. I haven't worn it in so long. I was ransacking my drawers, like, where did I put this stupid thing?
I'm
I
sorry to
haven't
make
needed it
you.
in a bit.
I'm sorry to make you waste time digging it up.
No, I used to go to more conventions where I would pull this out. I haven't been to a con in quite a bit, or at least not one I've been invited to.
Like a
So
VidCon or something.
yeah,
Hmm.
little nerd cons would invite me, and back in the channel awesome days, we'd all go in as a group before
Hmm.
that kind of all fell apart. But um, now it's just me and the camera. So
And to that, like, what do you feel like you have to say at this point about, I guess, the longevity of success that you've seen out of the format that you have?
you
Because, I
know,
mean, while it is true that your content has evolved at least somewhat over the years, like, the content game itself has rapidly changed since you started out. And a lot of YouTubers who, including myself, have kind of like melded ourselves to, on top of what we're already doing, to what's going on in the live streaming space, to what's going on in the short form space, and so on and so forth. And you've stayed more or less dedicated to, what you originally set out to do, and yet it still works and people seem to receive it really well.
yeah, it's curious, right? I don't know why that is. Like I'm pretty used to having a pretty, I would say I have a low ceiling for my videos, but a pretty high floor. I don't bomb ever. I
Hmm.
never have a video that just doesn't get views. Like I can count on basically every video to have the same view count, except for like every once in a while I'll have like a huge hit, and I'll of course the year end top tens always make a you know soar into the stratosphere for me. But otherwise, um, I don't know, why do you guys still like I've had people follow me for like since 2009. I was like, that's I don't necessarily get it. Like, I mean, you've been doing this for, quite a long time too.
Hmm.
And have you adjusted your things to trends, or are you just doing
Um,
what you do?
I would say most definitely in some ways I have. I mean, when I look at the way the old reviews used to feel and read and look, like,
Mhm.
that has definitely changed, but like the concept, the bare bones kind of like approach of the review hasn't shifted all that much. However, I don't know if my main channel stuff and main YouTube stuff would be as successful as it is currently, if not for the fact that on top of that, I started doing music industry commentary. I started jumping on TikTok to have these conversations. Like I've just found myself gravitating toward any platform and space over the years where I also see people talking about this stuff,
Mhm.
because I figure part of what makes what I do work is that I need to sort of like be ingrained in whatever's going on in music discourse broadly, and the thing is, back in the day, as we were kind of talking about before we turned on the camera and started recording, a lot of the music discourse world was much more localized to either YouTube or a handful of popular music blogs and some pretty hot message boards at the time. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
nowadays it's like it's broadened out to basically anywhere there is a group of people regularly using social media. And I feel like, at least for me, that's kind of necessitated being at least a little bit everywhere all at once, just to kind of like keep track, because especially when I've, spent a good amount of time on TikTok, some of the music conversations and discourse and artists who I see popping off over there are totally different from what I see in terms of like music discourse going on YouTube. It's like totally different conversations going on in multiple different places. And a lot of them have valid takes and perspectives coming out of all of them,
Uh, Boy, I do not do that at all. I am not on TikTok, and I feel like I would not enjoy it. I remember, like something like 5, 10 years ago, one of the big discourses in YouTube was YouTube burnout.
Hmm.
And I have not done that. And I feel like the fact that I have not chased trends or really ever really tried to self promote very much
Hmm.
has allowed me to just be consistent. I'm not chasing numbers. I don't care how well the video does. I just want it out there. Like once I was 3 years in, I kind of basically stopped worrying about it. Like it's going to do what it does. I just figured like I'm just going to put it out there and not think about it once it's out there. Uh, it's done. I got it out of me, and I don't have to worry about. And like you do it, and it seems to work well for you. But like most people can't keep up that pace. They can't keep up the pace you do. Like
they haven't, they can't, they don't, not, I'm not trying to flex or anything.
yeah.
But I think it also has a lot to do with perspective. I think you and I both share, an appreciation for the value of what we do as we're doing it and as we've been doing it. I think that that kind of YouTuber burnout, phenomenon that you're talking about. I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of that coincided with the pandemic, the rise of TikTok as a super relevant platform, and the ushering in of this new generation of content creators that I don't think the people who came up with you and me saw themselves getting replaced by, you know what I mean? Or maybe they thought if there was going to be a replacement, it would happen more slowly, or it would happen on the same sort of like platform or by virtue of the same rules that they had to operate under in order to get where they're at. And when they saw that that was not how it was going to play out, I think there was maybe a little bit of shock there. That didn't hit me quite as much because I never started doing this under the presumption that it would like lead me to a cushy traditional media job where I could just sit on my ass and not do anything. And on top of that, like, I sort of have always understood, or at least it was always kind of ingrained in me early on, in order to kind of like make what I do viable, I was already kind of spreading myself out there as much as I could, because just by virtue of paying attention to different genres, because, these sorts of different conversations that I see going on different social media platforms. I mean, I have been trying to track, much the same thing when I'm talking about, what's hot and what's new and what's interesting in the metal community and the pop community and the hip hop community and the electronic music community, and follow what's bubbling to the top in each to sort of see what appeals to me, because I'm a bit of a generalist when it comes to what I cover. There's a lot of kind of specialization in the music commentary field where people kind of tend to stick to the one or two genres that they know best or like kind of like the most. And I do try to, as much as I can, like spread myself out a little bit and cover a lot of different bases.
Yeah. That's that's the other thing. Like music criticism, like I don't actually know how people do that.
Hmm.
Like how do
I do think you do it though. I do think you do it.
I feel like I'm kidding because obviously I do it for a living, but like none of the mechanics of like listening to all these albums and having takes on it comes particularly natural to me.
Hmm.
Like that's why how I got into this was,
Hmm.
reviewing songs I had heard on the radio 500 times already. Like I don't have quick takes. That's
Hmm.
I think one of my biggest flaws as a critic. I cannot listen to an album and then get on camera and say what I thought about it.
Hmm.
The first listen I have of something generally produces no words from me.
Hmm.
Um, if I do, it's probably because it was either a really amazing or really terrible. Like the last Taylor Swift review came out real easy. Just like I was like, let's start
And
writing this now.
we'll talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah.
But I still do think what you're doing is important though, because and again, let's try to speak to this. Like, you do tend to sort of like give deeper, more substantive, more the kind of analysis that, I mean, sure, I have takes and I have opinions and I do have levels of analysis in what I do, but like, I feel like the level of detail that you give and thought and emotion that you put into what you do, there's like a fermentation process there, for the most part. And you're covering a lot of stuff that like has kind of been ingrained, especially with like a lot of these one hit wonder videos have been like ingrained in people's lives for years. And these are songs that they intimately know, but you're able to bring a level of attention to them that even makes people like kind of see them a different way. And, on a little more of a surface level, because obviously I'm giving reviews and takes faster. Like I'm trying to do the same thing with a lot of newer records that people hear. Like I'm trying to give people pause to make them actually like think and sort of, perceive what it is about this song that they like or don't like.
Yeah. I feel like I've found my level, I guess, because I can't do like I would not be very good at a hot take or like a quick take or like a first listen take. I do not know how people like, for Pitchfork, they get the record and they've written a good review of it the next day. It's like I couldn't do that. And I have a lot of friends in like the video essay sphere where they'll just drill down on something for like a year or
Right.
or more. And I don't feel like I have long takes either. I feel like good right in the middle. Like I can go on this, it'll take me a month, but I feel good about it. It's like that's the level of research I am willing to do. I don't have like a long take and I don't have a quick take. I have the medium take. I think the more I've done this, the more research I'm willing to do. Like when I started, videos were like 10 minutes long, and the one hit wonder videos was like, I checked out just checked out their Vivo page and had thoughts on it. But like I do a lot more research now. I've got a lot of books behind me. I've got a lot of books behind me that I've actually read for research, for work, and that's what I like doing. That's
hold on 1 second.
But I feel like
hold on 1 second. There's the internet was kind of crapping out for a second. Okay, I think I think it's good. Could you gesture to the books again behind you one more time, and then continue on the tangent you were on? Yeah, just say I have a lot of books that I read.
Yeah. I've developed a pretty decent library of books behind me, as you can see. I haven't read all of them. Some I'm planning to read in the future for episodes I might do. But that's what I like doing. If there's a book about it, that's a good way to get me to do an episode on it.
Yeah, I mean, go on.
And just like I read a couple Metallica books for when I covered Saint Anger, and that was fun. It's like, like I know of Metallica, I've listened to the albums, but like I didn't, and I watched the behind the music, but there's, a lot of stuff I didn't know. And that was fun. And that's a good way to get me to do an episode.
Just quick, do you have any thoughts on sort of like, and I don't know how much like you have, since I've seen a lot of discourse about this on TikTok, how much, you're aware of this, but there's like, certain sects and segments of the metalcore community where, they like literally chase after that snare sound. They're like, yo, that snare sound actually like kind of hits, and like they incorporate pretty much that like that pong. It sounds like a kickball smashing on the floor, and it's like resonating. Like there's just something about that sound that actually comes across like a lot better in the context of that music as opposed to like a Metallica album.
I have seen, I mean, for that episode, I also like there's a humongous Saint Anger defense squad.
Oh yeah. Oh, there is a big Saint Anger defense squad.
I am not one of them. Like, but some of my friends will tell you it's like it's one of their best albums. Like, it's like one of those things where like I don't agree, but like I can see that this is for somebody. Somebody
Right.
really likes this.
I'm a little bit in the Lulu Defense Squad, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like there's some weird stuff on that album that I'm kind of like, this is so crazy. I kind of just appreciate it just for being as out there as it is. And I will say hilariously, it is still an album today that like a lot of the people in the club in the community, even people who you were just talking about, like will not touch and will not acknowledge. I actually even got interviewed this year, I think like over the summer or so, by this guy who I name and eventual title escapes me. Maybe he'll end up in your library back there, but he's writing a Metallica book and he's
Mhm.
going album by album. And he's like, what albums would you want to talk about, for some quotes for the book when for an interview. And I said, well, first off, one of the three albums I want to talk about is Lulu. And he says, oh, we're not doing Lulu at all. And I said, you're wait with time. You're not doing Lulu at all? Like what do you mean? It's like one of the most controversial albums of all time. What do you mean you're not doing Lulu at all?
That's a funny thing. I also did one on the Clash's final album with the new
Cut the
lineup.
crap, man. Is is an abomination.
And like a lot of the videos are like the documentaries or the books I read, they just did not cover it at all. It's like it's not in their box set. Like they
Which
like
is insane. It's a part of their history.
yeah, like a lot of people just didn't want to touch it, even like the official chroniclers of the band. And it was like, I mean, it still says the Clash on it.
Right.
Like you can still see it says the Clash. You gotta. I don't agree with that. But obviously, what I am attracted to is disasters.
And Joe Strummer fucking made it, man.
Yeah, it was.
Like his name is on the damn thing.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of these books I read do not want to cover the low points. If you're reading it, you're a fan. You're a huge fan, and you want to hear only the good parts.
I mean,
Like,
here's the thing. And this is why I think what I and especially you do is like essential because through experiences like that and the one that I just talked about, and obviously like you have all these books behind you. I have books like that in my house that I enjoy reading and I get a lot out of that. I glean for information about my favorite artists who I talk about on a regular basis. But it just kind of goes to show you like how much of what we know and understand to be, what we were grown up and told was music history is just entirely groomed and written by the victors and carefully, methodically assembled in such a way to where it's the most like flattering thing for the artist in question. You know what I mean? Which I mean,
right.
on some level you expect. Like nobody's writing and going out of their way to read an Ozzy Osbourne book to learn everything about the guy that would make you hate him, but simultaneously part of what made Ozzy and why he is such a beloved figure to begin with is that he was imperfect, like he was a total mess. He was like one of the most wild and out of control men in rock and metal for a certain period of time. And that was like core to his marketing. And to like kind of gloss over that in favor of this kind of, I guess, more vanilla portrayal of a guy who, if you transported him to today, he'd, be one of the ballsiest men in rock music still. If we're talking about like, peak 70s, 80s Ozzy, it just seems like inauthentic and very odd.
Yeah, like I don't know if like what I do is quote essential or not, but like one thing I have noticed is the difference in trends in YouTube and just in criticism in general. When I started, I was a mean critic because that was what was selling. It was like, let's take this bad movie and rip it apart. Let's play this terrible video game and make jokes about it. And I still kind of feel like that's what I do, but like that is definitely kind of phased out.
You think so? You think so?
It phased out during the 2010s. I feel like, and that, um, and my stuff I feel like has gotten more positive. I feel like what I just try to be as honest as I can. Like, because that's a backlash where everyone's especially in the last few years, I've sensed a lot of critics and a lot of readers kind of getting sick of how relentlessly positive it is. How
Mm,
people are kind of afraid to give bad reviews, especially to like the 1% of music.
mm,
Like there's like I sense the backlash brewing to Cowboy Carter, like, and that's still a very controversial album. A lot of people really love it. A lot of people say it's one of Beyonce's worst, and God knows what the country music establishment is doing. But like, I kind of sensed a sea change going on. It was like maybe Beyonce doesn't have to be given an A+ just because she's Beyonce, and
right.
a lot of big publications gave 5-star reviews to Taylor Swift's last album, like A++ reviews to Taylor Swift. Like even though on my Twitter feed, which I still check in occasionally, I'm not on there anymore, but like I still check in there occasionally, and it was just nothing but dunks on the album going, viral. And meanwhile, Rolling Stones give me an A+.
I mean, that's
I mean, it's not
well.
like
Well, hold on. I feel like you're not even telling the full story there. It's an
yeah.
A+. It's also they dedicated the whole front page
Hmm.
to the album and changed the color scheme of the front page to be the orange and kind of like rusted brass green. Inside, I mean, how often are they doing that? They're not doing it for the next Beyonce album, that's for sure.
And like God knows, like you can like that album. That could be an honest review. Who
For sure,
knows?
yeah, no, for it absolutely could.
But it feels obligatory for Taylor that the big publications give her the five. I was going to say 5 mics. I was like, no, that's not
Yeah,
the.
if I, if the source were still given mics and were forced
Yeah.
at gunpoint to give Taylor Swift a review, they might be giving her 5 mics too, just out of pressure with the rest of the industry. But since we're
Yeah,
on this
like
top, since we're on this topic now, I wanted to ask if and you have said this, if Life of a Showgirl is her worst record, what do you think her best record is?
um for me, like the one I most enjoy listening to is 1989.
Mhm.
Um, the one that like is my personal pick, like the one that means most to me personally. I think it'll surprise a lot of people, but it's Midnight's.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, Midnight's is the one that was like I connected with the most. Which is funny because, like I said, I don't have takes the first time. And the first time I heard it, I've seen a lot of the people who don't like it, and I kind of agreed with them after the first listen. It was like this is kind of samey sounding and boring, and like I don't really get it. And but like on repeated listens, it really did it for me. So like 1989, banger after banger, folklore, you know, critical darling for obvious reasons, and I agree with all of that. Midnight's is like the one for me.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a record with its kind of sleepier, more subtle production. I could imagine with more listeners, like being a bit more of like
well, it was for me.
and shockingly enough, like I and I'm as well aware of the initial super negative reaction that a lot of people had to Showgirl out of the gate, but it's been kind of funny to observe, at least on a micro level. There have been some people who have very much been warming up to the album slowly over a period of months and are like now very proudly and aggressively like rocking all these Life of a Showgirl avatars on their Twitter accounts.
Mhm.
And among the Taylor Swift community, there's like a little bit of a split in terms of like hardcore fans who are still not totally down with the album, but they sort of see the Life of a Showgirl adopters as like a little unhinged and crazy. And they're like a different stripe of Taylor Swift fan or something. And these days, I have seen on some level on my own, because these days when I do see Taylor Swift fans coming for my throat, it's often the Life of a Showgirlies and maybe not the other kind of like other Taylor Swift fans who maybe enjoy a lot of the older, even more recent stuff prior to this album more.
It's a funny thing. I am I am so numb to the stands at this point. Like, what are you going to do to me? You can't do anything.
With that being said, do you feel like it's harder for other reviewers and critics and commentators to feel that way? And do you think that does contribute to, like you were saying, kind of this trend of kind of broad positivity across like the music critic sphere?
Yeah. I didn't put that together in my brain, but like, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, God, like part of the reason why I'm not on Twitter is not politics. It's just to avoid that shit. Like, it's just to avoid the stand. Like, I don't know if how it is now because I'm not there anymore, but like the swarms were just awful. I've been swarmed by, oh geez, I can't even count those. Like, I remember getting DJ Khaled fans mad at me.
Honestly, I've reviewed his music negatively on numerous occasions. I don't know if I've ever seen a DJ Khaled fan make a peep. I didn't know DJ Khaled had shooters like that.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew? It was only like a couple of them, but like, when it happened, I was just, what am I looking at? I was like, can we bottle it and study it?
You
And
know,
like,
I think in a way it's probably an extension of a mindset that, and it'd be interesting if you could speak to this at all, because I know that we're, in a similar age range, and I remember pretty vividly when I was a kid, being into alternative music, which I know on some level you are as well. There kind of being these sentiments of, if it's popular, that must mean it's good, and its goodness is pretty much validated by virtue of its popularity, And I feel like there was a bit of a moment during the late 2000s, early 2010s with like kind of the indie rock and indie rap boom that that sort of notion was being challenged a little bit. And I don't know, at least like from what I've been seeing lately, it kind of seems like that sort of opinion is coming back. Like people are just like broadly accepting that something must be good merely by virtue of the fact that it's popular on some level. And that alone is justification enough that it's, good, and anything that is obscure must by virtue of being obscure be bad. And, what's, I guess, like doubly concerning about that now is that I feel like with a lot of what we're seeing in streaming, botting, AI music too, I think Billboard chart reporting and the like has become so transparently fake these days. And people are sort of like, allowing their tastes to be dictated by numbers that could be wholly and entirely made up for all that we know.
oh boy, the streaming numbers. Well, we all saw the thing where, the headlines are going around like an AI artist has the number one country song in the country. And it wasn't true. It wasn't true. It was like one tiny minuscule chart for digital downloads,
Right.
which are the easiest to fake because
Yep.
like no one buys downloads anymore. If you're going to buy it, you're going to buy it on a physical disc. And two, it was on the country charts, like the least online
Right. Collection of
listeners.
people.
Yeah.
But also with that being said, like, and I don't know how closely you were following a story like this, but for a moment that rapper Young Thug had all of these like kind of jail calls leaking shortly after he
Mhm.
had sort of like, made a plea deal and
Yeah,
was let
he
free.
had to apologize to Glorilla, right? Like,
Right. But one of those calls, in the many calls that sort of like leaked, he's literally having a conversation with an associate of his and speaks to paying $50K to up the streams of an artist on his label. And that was for a particular record that ended up going number one the week that it came out. And, the details of how many streams came in and how many were purchased for that amount of money, it wasn't described in the call, but he at
mhm.
least like sort of commentated on putting down a certain amount of money to get streams specifically for this album. And since then, everybody's been kind of like calling that number one into question and are wondering like, man, what's the legitimacy of any of this?
Which artist was it?
It
What
was for Gunna.
was for Gunna?
Yeah,
Of course. And maybe he can sell another meme coin to get enough money to bought more streams.
possibly. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, he said he was pushing P. He didn't say how. So,
That's true. That's true.
but
But yeah, I mean, have you yourself experienced like a bit of a resurgence in this take that like because it's popular, it's good?
oh, I would say it's waning a bit because people felt very comfortable taking down this new Taylor Swift
This Taylor
record.
Swift album. Yeah,
I don't know,
maybe
but
that
like
is true.
the poptimism debates have been going on since since I've been doing this, since long before I've been doing this.
Right,
And,
exactly.
and I don't know that people like what they like. And I wouldn't say like people are, going hard for, Alex Warren, who's got like the biggest song of the year. Uh,
That's true. People
like
don't want
they,
to accept it's the song of the summer and people don't want to accept it.
no. And like there are still critical favorites even in popularity, and there are critical people that are, it's safe to beat down. Like you don't uh you can say bad things about Baby Rexa, you can say bad things about Jesse Murph, even
Mm,
though they had big hits.
mm.
Like some people are,
Speaking
and
of that,
like and no
go
one's
on, go on.
no one's going hard for Morgan Wallen, who is like at least in the critical sphere,
Mm.
even though he's putting up humongous numbers.
Putting up humongous numbers because of that humongous dog shit length of an album. Like I was actually like very upset and ashamed of the fact that I needed to, and this is what Apple Music told me, in order to listen to that album enough to actually get a grasp of all the material on it, I had to log 400 minutes into listening to that album, which ended up putting it in my top 15 most listened to albums of the year. Because just by virtue of the album being like 3 times longer than some other records I actually enjoyed. So I'm like listening through those albums, if I listen, I need to listen to those albums 3 times more just to get up with some Morgan Wallen numbers.
Like the charts have always been being gamed. Like in fact, before 1991, you can just like throw all those stats in the garbage.
Mm,
That was when Billboard invented SoundScan, and they found out like, wow, all our understanding what is popular is wrong, which is why the 90s is just like a sudden break from everything we thought was popular. That's why hair metal died. That's why a lot of the adult contemporary died. That's
mm.
why a lot of the pop rap that was big in 1990 is dead in the water in 1991.
Okay.
And like I would really like someone to like make a history of chart fraud.
Mm.
I would read the shit out of that book
Uh,
because people have been
th-
cheating the charts forever.
this makes me kind of think about, your series that's almost like your bread and butter at this point. A little bit in respect to that because, and I don't know if you have a sense of this as well, but it does feel like on some level, having lived through this era myself, obviously, like the concept or the idea of what we know to be like the one hit wonder, it
Mm-hmm.
sort of seems like it at least took a certain flavor or shape during that 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s time period. And these days, to me, it sort of feels like what makes for a hit is kind of different now because songs can be platinum tracks, but still have a super niche appeal because people are like streaming them over and over and over. And, a lot of artists these days, after they've sort of had that hit, the internet allows them to sort of like go on forever with or without like the permission of a label. Sometimes when an artist like had that hit and they put out a flop record and a label wasn't willing to sort of like continue to fund their career, they would disappear. They would go away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like, traditional media was the only window through which you really truly had access to them. And these days it sort of seems like even when somebody does have legitimately like that one single true hit song that's broadly appealing, like they still just kind of like continue and they never quite give up the fight.
I mean, yeah, that certainly is. I don't know. You have more options as a one-hit wonder these days than you would back in the day.
Mm,
And but it feels like that is because like the gatekeepers have less control, which is like a double-edged sword because like you it also means that if you are on a major label, they can't necessarily do anything for you anymore because no one knows what the hell any of this does anymore.
mm,
You cannot like I have heard, secondhand about music executives. They just don't know what they're supposed to be doing anymore. They don't know what works anymore. And they're like, we trying to promote you and we don't know what works. We don't know what to do. And that's why um all the music stars have to be on TikTok. They all have to do it themselves basically. Which, like I said, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of A&R these days has been reduced to just basically working for the label and just going on these platforms and just endlessly digging to find any and all artists that you can that might have a little bit of buzz and sort of like jump in on the ground floor early with some songs of theirs that are sort of like either popping off or maybe in hopes of signing them really cheap for a record they're about to drop, and kind of like doing this bet investment on what they're doing in hopes that like when they do eventually come out with that album that you're going to make them put out themselves. You know, they're not getting much more support other than maybe a small advance, that it may just like sort of pop off. You're kind of just like doing guesswork.
Yeah, like RIP to Arizona Zervis, to Trevor Daniel. So much. I feel like TikTok gave us so many more one-hit wonders. Like I was looking at the the year end 100 for 5 years ago for 2021, just out of curiosity. I was like, "Put Your Records On" by Rit Momney. I was like, no, I heard that a lot 5 years ago. Like, where did he go? Like, so like the one hit wonder lives. The are we still in the TikTok era?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're most definitely still in the TikTok era.
Yeah, but like it felt like between like 2019 and 2022, there was like a golden age of stuff that would not have been popular without TikTok. That
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And we were talking about A&R and how they can't do anything more. That's just why so many influencers are turning to music, or it's like they're turning to being promoted because they know how to promote themselves, which feels like they're the ones who are going to do well just because they know how to promote themselves. Like Alex Warren is an influencer.
Yeah,
he transitioned to music.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone else who was in the hype house has at least put out one single, Larry or Addison Rae. Addison Rae is like one of the most buzzed pop stars, of the year. Even, she hasn't had like amazing chart success, but like people like her, people are rooting for her. And it was like, she used to just post pictures of herself on a jet in sunglasses. And that's the career path now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think creatively, while I didn't love her new record, she has like improved and evolved by leaps and bounds in comparison with like her first couple of tracks, which honestly, to me, quality wise, just read like bad YouTuber music. Like when I saw that popping off and I caught wind of that for the first time, I was like, man, whatever this new TikTok generation of musician is going to be or shape up to be, it's going to be as like, terrible as like Rice Gum rapping into the camera, like when he was doing that. But then when I heard Addison's record again, while I didn't love it, I was like, okay, this at least seems like something closer to professional grade, like it's actually like worthy of judgment, even if I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of suspect that a lot of the fandom is kind of just reactionary. It was like an influencer whose music is, good, or at least reasonable, judgeable.
Right.
I feel like people are just like so knocked out by that. It's like they're kind of overrating it. Just
yeah. I mean, it is a bit shocking, but the thing is, like, the further we go down this social media pathway that we are, the more we're going to reach a place where, pretty much all of our, new music stars are going to have been sort of like active on social media at some point. A Doechii, who obviously is one of the biggest rap successes of the past year, used to do vlogs, So, I mean, while obviously she didn't start a social media sensation in the way that Addison Rae did, she was certainly social media savvy, you know, and was kind of like putting herself out there in the way that maybe any other content creator would before she popped off fully in music.
Yeah, and like there's many. Like Justin Bieber was found on YouTube. Joji used to be a fucking YouTube character.
Right. Even who was it? I think it was like somebody found that Kendrick Lamar's cousin Baby Keem was there's like maybe a few recordings of him like doing some Minecraft stuff like when he was a kid,
Yeah.
10 years ago when Kendrick Lamar was first trying to like really be successfully commercial successfully. So, I think like from this point forward, like regardless of who they are, like any and all stars that we run across are going to probably have on some level, even a low level, like some kind of like past social media presence that hardcore fans are probably going to dig up to some degree.
Yeah, like David, God knows what's going on with him.
Oh,
He started out like it's not the most important and more interesting thing about his story, but he did start
right.
out, making music to make background music for his Fortnite videos or Minecraft videos. I can't remember which, but
Right. Right. Yeah. He attested to that in interviews. Yeah.
so like he started out as a streamer or a YouTuber or something, and then he became a famous musician, famous enough to get himself in a lot of trouble.
And,
So
honestly, becoming a musician by virtue of needing background music for your video game streams, that's as good a reason as any to become a professional musician in my
no, in a different world, this is a very cool and interesting story of how
right.
I.
Did Bach or Mozart start making music because they needed background music for, their FPS streams on Twitch,
Yeah, like most of the great bands of the 60s are just kids fucking around in a garage. So
Yeah. Who needed music for their headshot compilations
yeah,
on YouTube.
they were bored. They needed something to do.
Like this montage of all of my Halo W's would go a lot harder with some garage rock riffs in the background.
If David were not in trouble right now, I would think that's a very cool story.
So I mean, at one point it was obviously.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we were just talking about kind of like one hit wonders continuing and still being very much a thing, though taking a different shape and taking a different form in the social media age. Do you sort of like, foresee yourself kind of like moving on to maybe some of these more modern instances in the oncoming years? Or do you feel like there's still like a back catalog through the eras that you typically touch down on worth diving into, that you're still kind of like, you still have a lot of prospects decades ago as far as like, good one hit wonder content, stuff going into the future?
Oh, I have not yet dared to do a one hit wonder who had their hit before I started reviewing. Like the newest person I think I've ever covered was Asher Roth's I Love College. And that turned out to be a surprisingly interesting story.
Just as a suggestion, a Trap Queen one hit wonder might go hard.
Oh no, absolutely not. No. Like he had two other hits that year. He was like, one thing I have considered doing is making a list of all, the greatest 1 year wonder of every year. The way Fetty Wap had 2015 and then just dropped off the face of the earth.
Right.
I have a list, but I've got gaps in it. But like 2014 would be Iggy Azalea.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like it feels like the one hit gets extended to not necessarily one single hit, but like a run of a very sort of like compartmentalized moment in time. And now even that sort of feels like, as a standard, it's being eroded a little bit because I feel like, and this is no shade, I appreciate her presence and think her inclusion in the new SpongeBob movie soundtrack is very entertaining. But you have Ice Spice, somebody who has not had a genuine bona fide hit in quite a long time. However, like her social media presence and just her whatever you want to say, like her iconic, figure, whatever you want to say, is enough to sort of like draw people to something. It doesn't even necessarily just have to be the music in and of itself. And it sort of seems like that alone is enough to buoy some semblance of a music career, even if it's like maybe more of a social media star career parading as a music career. It's still something, I guess,
Well, yeah, like the 1 year wonder of 2023 is pretty locked down, I feel like, unless Ice Spice turns it around in the next couple of years. Like, who knows? That SpongeBob song might pop off. Who knows? Who knows? But I don't know, like the definition of, I think, the TikTok star who turned to music, or like the person who was like born on the internet and turned that into a career, is Lil Nas X. And Lil Nas X is not doing well right now at all.
Mm.
Like, I don't know what happened there, but like it feels like, I mean, there could be a lot of things. There are a lot of things going on in the world, but
yeah, there were like some singles that I think had some juice behind them and were kind of interesting, but whatever album was about to come out as a result of all of that seems to have kind of like dissipated. I don't know what the album plan is right now.
yeah. Well, he seems to be also having some kind of health problems or something, or so, not a good time to be Lil Nas X. Like, hoping that guy turns it around.
No, same, because I mean, I've seen a lot of good stuff come out of his previous works, but we were kind of talking a little bit earlier about the music execs don't know what to do, and the gatekeepers, as it were, have like changed and shifted, and everything sort of seems like a little more free reign now, with everyone kind of listening to and uploading whatever it is they please. But do you foresee in the near future, maybe some of those kind of like guardrails or limitations being reestablished in a way, but in kind of like a different form? I mean, I think maybe before it would have been done merely by virtue of whether or not a label was willing to sign you. Nowadays, it sort of seems like there's more and more of an economic squeeze for people who are trying to get their music out there. And having the, financial viability to actually kind of like, support a fledgling music career. And on top of that, it seems like those struggles are being made more difficult by platforms like Spotify and even Tidal at this point, who are pretty much saying, hey, sure, you're an independent artist who nobody knows who the heck they are, and you're free to upload your music to our platform. But unless it hits a certain amount of streams or visibility, whatever traffic you do happen to get on what you do, you're not getting any money for it. Yeah. And it sort of seems like music that is independent and not already industry approved is getting less and less juice and sort of like drive in the algorithms on these platforms. Even though things have moved from physical to digital, it sort of seems like there are becoming more restrictions in the digital and the streaming world in terms of like what people actually, get access to in terms of exposure or even small amounts of pay.
When I was a kid, there was a whole network dedicated to music on television, an entire music television, it was literally called, and it was not even the only one. And it's just like kind of shocking to me how much like music has like declined as just like a pastime. Like you could not have an entire network dedicated to music right now. It feels very strange to me, like how much it feels like, it was like I was on a date with a girl and I asked her what does she listen to, and she said podcasts. And I was like, what music do you listen to? It was like, not really. I'm not really a music person. I only listen to podcasts. And I was like, this person would have been treated as insane when I was a kid. Like everyone spent so much of their money on music. It was a gigantic industry. You would pay $20 whole.
Yeah, to get a CD.
Yeah.
I have to echo. I was on a date in the last few years with somebody who also, and it's funny. It's to the point where if I mean, I'm not on the apps now, and I'm obviously, I'm not single at the moment, but for a time, whenever I would run across anybody who was even like maybe the slightest bit alternative, or sort of like, seemed like they were left field in any sort of way, like they were probably like aware of who I was, or, it became clear that they knew me on some level or were aware of me on some level. But this person was not at all. And quickly it became obvious to me that part of the reason that was is that she was not into music even a little bit. So I was like, oh, okay. So we have not crossed paths because you just don't even like music. And yeah, I mean, they're out there. There are people who are just so into podcasts or so into gaming or whatever that they just don't see music as a necessity.
So like I said all that because you asked like what could the labels reestablish who they are and make it like it was back in the day or like something like it, or where they were actual gatekeepers. It's like I don't know. Like first there would have to be money again, like more money than they.
The labels have money though; they're keeping it for themselves.
Yeah,
but you're kind of edging toward a very interesting point because and again, this is a transition that we existed through. I mean, the limits, the boundaries of what we sort of like understood for a certain time to be stardom, like there were certain criteria that needed to be checked, and much of the time you needed to at least like be bringing some kind of like baseline level of either talent or super broad appeal among a certain segment or audience that would be willing to sort of like pay a ticket price or tune into you. And these days, social media allows pretty much access to everyone to be free, number one. And number two, like I was just kind of alluding to, we watched an era of media become ushered in where there's a whole generation of very famous, very rich, very successful people out there who are just famous for being famous, which is how the phenomenon has been coined. And I feel like social media has only exacerbated that. And there's only so many people, so many sets of eyes, only so much time for people to spend on the internet or otherwise, consuming media of any sort. There's only so much stardom to go around, I imagine on some level. So, as a result, like you don't need to be a musician to be a successful sort of like, popular figure that draws people's attention. You can just merely be somebody who's willing to post pictures of themselves on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, you probably don't do as much chart watching as I do. Like popularity is very interesting to me. So I'm always like looking at the Hot 100, see what's up, what's down. This has been such a terrible year where it seems like nothing is really catching on as far as like pop. Like there were a bunch of articles in the summer. It was like the song of the summer is nothing ? And I also look at the Spotify charts. Like if you look at it compared to last year, there is so much old music. It's like what's in the top 100 right now? Creep by Radiohead, Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Like it didn't used to be like that. Like there'd be some in there, but it'd be like 20 songs in the 100, and now it's like much more. Like it's like 40% of it. It was like. And this couldn't possibly have happened in 1998.
Do you think that is? I mean, if you can, like, do you have any sort of like theories or hypotheses as to why that might be happening? Is it an artist issue? Is it something the industry itself is driving?
It's got to be something industry related. I did a little research of like one of the other big slumps of the music industry. And this was, back in the day when people still bought records, but it was 1980. And that was because disco just collapsed overnight.
Right. There was like a bubble.
Yeah. And it happened so quickly that the record industry didn't know what they were supposed to be promoting instead.
Do you think we're going through something recently now? I mean, I don't know if this is simply attributable to this, but I feel like, recently there's also been a lot of discourse around like, and we know this has kind of like culturally been the zenith for a little bit about the decade or so prior to this, but there's been a lot of talk around like, oh, why isn't hip hop music as popular as it's been over like the past 10 plus years?
Mhm.
Do you think that's kind of like a part of this as well? Has there been a bubble popping in that way that's kind of left a lot of people wondering like, what do we do next?
I think so. Yeah, like there's been a lot of think pieces about that. One of the big thing people think is that the new stars just aren't there because like the next generation after the Kendrick, Drake, and Cole, or the people from like the end of the 2010s who were supposed to be our big stars now are dead.
Mm.
They,
That's also hugely true. Like the thing is, there's a lot of argument. There's definitely a case to make in terms of guys like XXXTentacion, Lil Peep, Juice
Mhm.
World, so on and so forth. Like, you could say like maybe those guys wouldn't still be as hot as they are if they were still here with us because there is still some magnetism to their figures because of their passing and some
Mhm.
call it a Kurt Cobain effect or whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
But still, each of those guys were very much still on the rise. At
Yeah.
the points at which they passed, and the three of them, and I know there are more examples, guys like Pop Smoke too.
Hang on.
All three of them certainly had potential to get 2-3 times bigger than they were.
Yeah, like Juice World's posthumous albums, they still pop
Oh yeah,
off.
they do.
So like he could be like a gigantic megastar right now,
Hmm.
where he's still around. But like there didn't seem to be anyone to take his spot or move whatever hip hop is supposed to be into like the next phase because like the whole emo rap thing was like a humongous movement. It was like
Yeah.
and it was like an era defining moment. It was like did music sound like in the late 2010s? It was like we're going to talk about that the same way we talk about hair metal in the 80s or grunge in the 90s. It was like a major thing. And what's the new thing?
Hmm.
Like what's the top rap song right now is probably like another Gunna thing, and like Gunna's not moving the culture forward, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything on the hip hop front, like the new thing is to not be hot and not be popular. The terminology and the descriptions that a lot of the artists and fans in younger circles use right now is like, underground rapper
Mhm.
and, what's going on in the underground right now. And when, that terminology is brought up, these guys are not talking about dudes like, LP and Killer Mike and, stuff like that per se. They're not talking about the kind of underground hip hop that maybe indie heads kind of championed or MF Doom,
Mhm.
like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. They're talking about sort of like rage music, anything that might sound a little bit like Playboy Cardi, super distorted, super harsh, super abrasive stuff that is so anti-pop that it would never chart. And all these guys and all their fans are like clearly aware that like this is not commercially viable in any way, but they don't care. They're like, this is
Mhm.
for us. This is what we find interesting to listen to. And this is like what we want to, go crazy to at the live show. And this is what we're interested in. Commercial appeal be damned. And so I mean, with that kind of being what the next wave is ushering in, it's kind of like left a bit of an open gaping wound in terms of like, the commercial arm of the industry being kind of severed because, regardless of how talented and how commercially viable Drake or Kendrick are, I mean, it's always the new generation of each genre that ends up kind of like leading the way to whatever like current day commercial success is going to be. Because a lot of whatever defines commercial success in the music industry, regardless of the genre, is heavily dependent on what the youngest listeners are willing to consume.
Mhm.
And if young people are kind of trending away from at least newer forms of hip hop because the artists who are kind of like on the forefront of it are making music that's decidedly abrasive and is going to ward away newbies and people who are like, kind of unwilling to listen to more extreme stuff. maybe in the same way that like death metal musicians did and black metal musicians did during the 90s and late 80s. It's going to be tough to sort of like see the genre remain at least commercially relevant. You know, other styles are going to step in, other trends are going to step in.
That's the thing about underground stuff. If it gets big enough, someone will find a way to turn it into a commercial thing.
Well, that's kind of also a thing, which
Yeah.
you know, we could get into for a second, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was, and I know this doesn't necessarily like work for your format per se, and as we were just like kind of saying, one of your, you know, prime and keen interests is like what's popular, what's not, what makes something popular, and you know, I and everybody else watching, I'm sure, appreciates that side of your analysis. But part of my focus is like I'm just talking about things I prefer to hear, regardless of how popular it is. It isn't, you know. So you know, ignoring that it doesn't necessarily make sense within your usual format. If you could do a video or series of videos on stuff that you just like to listen to or that you're a huge fan of, even if it is super obscure, you know, or isn't necessarily at the top of the charts, like who would you cover? Who would you find yourself diving into?
Oh boy, you know, that's a funny thing. Like I saw a prompt going around social media. It was like, what is the worst question you get in your profession? And for me, it's like, what kind of music do you like?
Right,
It's like
right.
I've just like doing this job has kind of warped my brain. So like I don't even know anymore.
Really?
There's a peculiar internet phenomenon called infomania,
Hmm.
where you just become obsessed with like knowing all the things.
Hmm.
Like I got to see all the movies, I got to read all the books, I got to listen to all the music, and my listening has become like so strung out and so related to my work
Hmm.
that I feel like a lot of the time, even when I like something, I was like, all right, I'm going to put a little check mark in there, or I'm going to put, you know, hit the like button on Spotify, and then it's just like on to the next thing.
Hmm.
And like I might not ever revisit it again.
Hmm.
It's just, you know, it's like you know, I can say, you know, I listened to one of the 1001 albums I must listen to before I die. It's like, you got me, book. I did listen to it before I died. It was like, what would I write if I was just like not doing this job? Like, I don't know. I if I did, I really feel like my brain has been really scrambled by this stuff. And like the thing is, even before I started doing this, like a lot of what I knew was very patchwork.
Hmm.
I'm reading a book right now called Such Great Heights by Chris DeVille from Stereo Guild. Good,
Yeah,
good website.
we've interviewed Chris on the channel before about the book. The book is great.
Yeah, it's I'm almost done with it, and it's really like all about like the history of indie rock from like this millennium, this century, and like a lot of these songs I knew, and a lot of these songs I just did not, because like it's helped me fill in a lot of the gaps because I was like not a Pitchfork guy, but like I knew a lot of these songs, but I didn't know the history of it that he does. Like the other day, someone was playing a Broken Social Scene song at me, and this was like
Hmm.
years ago. But like, I was like, yeah, I was like, what song is this? It's a, you know, it's an anthem for a 17-year-old girl by Broken Social Scene, and I was like, huh, I've never heard of this. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, you're not a Broken Social Scene person? It's like, I know plenty of songs and love them a lot. It's like, but you don't know their biggest song? I just did not know that song. Even though, but it was like, if you don't know that song, surely you must not know this band. But I did.
Hmm.
I feel like I have just like picked up fragments of everything. And so people think I know. It's like when I go to karaoke, people are like, man, you know every song.
Oh,
It's like, no, it's like, no, I know a lot of songs that are very different. That
right.
doesn't mean I know all the songs in between all the songs that, you know, what's your karaoke song?
My karaoke song, if I'm feeling vocally good that day, you know, maybe My Way, maybe some Sammy Davis Jr. Um,
My
uh,
when you say my way, you mean Sinatra My
like
Way?
like Sinatra My Way.
Because I've done a gag where I tell people at karaoke, all right, I'm gonna put in My Way, and everyone assumes I'm gonna do the My Way that everyone does at
Right,
karaoke, and then
right.
I'll put on Limp Bizkit.
But with that being said, no, I mean, I've had a similar experience where people presume because of my content that like, you know, all the songs, you know, and of
Yeah.
course, like nobody knows all the songs. And I think like for most people, what you describe in terms of that patchwork experience, that again, that's most people. I think that's most people. I had maybe not the exact same experience, but similar in terms of when I was reading that book. Like I lived through that era. I knew a lot of those artists, but my entry, my gateway into the indie world, into the underground world at the time was not the same as a lot of those more mainstream listeners that Chris described in the book, who maybe sort of like was introduced to a lot of these artists through the OC and the OC soundtrack, mixtape, volume, series, and so on and so forth. Like I knew about a lot of the bands that influenced those groups beneath that prior. So a lot of those big sort of like, you know, perceived to be indie hits at the time, I just wasn't really into because it wasn't my thing, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like a lot of those more popular songs, maybe not like Broken Social Scene or whatever, but like, you know, I wasn't listening to the Garden State soundtrack. I hated that movie, you know? So, you know, so like by the time then and afterwards, people were like trying to shove the Shins down my throat. I was just completely not interested at all. And, you know, no shade to the Shins. It's just not my brand or like shade of indie. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to that era, I would much rather listen to Block Party. You know, I would much rather listen to like Interpol or something. You know, it's like
You
that.
know,
That's maybe more or yeah, yeah, yes. That was maybe more my flavor at the time.
yeah, like the Garden State soundtrack, did change my listening habits.
And that of a lot of people, and that's cool.
Yeah, in the exact same way that it did for you. Like I was like, wow, I'm not into this. And
And
it was like I started listening to very different music afterwards. Like I stopped trying to, be hip with it because so you were right, Natalie Portman. It did change my life. Like,
you know, and not to crap on any and all artists that were kind of like introduced to the mainstream in that way. I did more or less like get into and come to appreciate a lot more of the work of like Kimya Dawson and Adam Green after the Juno soundtrack, you
mhm.
know? I mean, I thought some of those Moldy Peaches songs were cute. I didn't love the rest of the
For
record, but
two
there were a
ugly
lot of,
people.
yeah, right. But a lot of those Adam Green and Kimya Dawson solo albums are really good, in my opinion. And that movie was obviously a point of introduction for a lot of different people.
Yeah, I remember. I remember liking the Juno soundtrack in a way that I did not like the Garden State soundtrack.
You know,
So
we're just two quaint guys. You know, we just like our quaint, quirky, punky folk music. That's
yeah.
all it is.
When you said like, "What's your taste?" Like, what would you do? It's like I don't know. Like a lot of the time, I kind of feel like. Do you ever see Talented Mr. Ripley?
Uh, no, I don't think I have.
All right. Well, there's a
I
scene
need
where
to. There's so many movies I have not seen. It's embarrassing. But go on.
yeah, but there's a scene in it where like to fit in with the crowd so he can infiltrate it because he's a
Hmm.
a weirdo. You can see him like listening to jazz over and over again. He's like picking one at random. I was like, who is this? Like memorize who this is so you can fit in. And it's like, and he does that until he's just like, I kind of feel like that sometimes.
No, I
Uh,
do feel that. I don't know if personally like what and again I do as much like listening for work as you do. I'm sure if not more. It hasn't necessarily warped my taste in terms of losing sense of what I like, but I feel like the only reason that is that it's my job to like things and not like things. So it's like whether or not I like it or prefer it is kind of a part of the way that the formula works. So I feel like as a result of it, that hasn't quite been broken down, but it does, as you have also described, it does create a dynamic where it prevents you from really having the time to sit down and appreciate certain things because you do have to kind of like move on to the next thing and start kind of like diving into whatever that is.
like I said, when I started doing this, it was just for songs I had heard on the radio over and
Mm.
over and over and over again. And I feel like a little like kind of out of touch with my brain sometimes that where I have to do this over and over. And like when I do a one hit Wonderland or a pop song review or the Train records, basically all I do is live that one thing I'm working on for like for weeks.
With
So
that,
like it becomes a thing where I know much more about the music I dislike than the music I actually prefer to listen to.
What do you have any sort of like, big content plans or ambitions on the horizon, or is it really just to like kind of like stick to the rhythm and kind of the formula that's been working still?
I mean, I'm a creature of habit,
Mm.
so I do have like kind of one big swing that I don't want to spoil that I'm kind of working on, and we'll see if I actually ever do it. That's why I don't want to announce what it is. But for the most part, it's the formula works for me. Seems to work for my viewers too. So I don't really have like any big switch ups planned. Um, I really wish, I really wish I was quicker about it. It takes me so long, I feel like, to work out a take that I'm could put out on the internet that I feel like I wish I could just turn on the video camera, just like sit in front like you do and like have a solid take ready. And I just don't like as you can see by how much I stutter during this interview, like I'm just not good off the cuff. I am like the king of the word processor.
Last thing I want to ask you before you head out, and this is because this is an artist who you've been critical of as well in your videos and has also recently been dogpiled for her newest record. But do you think Katy Perry has it in her to creatively mount a comeback?
No, period.
Okay, so we're closing the door on Miss Perry, is what you're saying.
No, everyone dogpiled that album because it was bad, but
Mm.
also I hear that I had a friend who described it as like listening to like a Chicago album from 1993. Like not like this is over.
It's bad
Whatever
and
you,
behind the times.
it is both and also it's just there's nothing in the tank anymore. There's just nothing in the tank. Like Katy Perry is supposed to be like shocking and weird, and that album is not only bad, it's boring.
Mm.
It is boring.
Mm.
And like everyone dogpiled on the one single because it was like the only one that was like bad enough to dunk on. But
Mm.
like the rest of the album is just like she's got nothing in the tank. She's wrung dry. She
Mm.
and she did you see the new song she just put out? The one about
I did
divorce.
see it. I did see it.
That is as close to a good Katy Perry song as you're gonna get, and
It's okay.
it's okay. It's okay.
Do you think Sabrina Carpenter is going to continue to stay dominant?
You know, I just saw her a couple of weeks ago. Um, my my instincts are yes. Like I
Okay.
was pretty early on. I mean, not early. Like I mean, on the emails I can't send to where I saw her. I was like, she's going to be a humongous star, and I
Oh,
was absolutely right. That's what
well,
I'm terrible at predictions, but I was like, she's going to blow up pretty soon, and I think she's got it. I think I mean, you can't predict anything, but I would be surprised if the next Sabrina album tanks, let's say.
okay.
I would be surprised if she was not able to keep up the momentum. I would be surprised if she is not as hot as she is now in 10 years. And
Okay.
that's a bold prediction that is absolutely not going to pan out, but that's
That
my
is a bold
feelings.
prediction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, last thing. Um, and you're going to understand what I'm saying here, but I'm not talking about anybody right now that is as popular as Sabrina or Taylor and the like. Um, but who do you think is maybe a little more fresh faced comparatively? Maybe we're aware of them. Maybe we're conscious of them. We know who they are. They haven't quite reached that peak yet, but maybe they have the potential to. Katy Perry has nothing left in the tank. Who do you think has juice?
I think Somber is going to be an A-lister in the next couple of years.
Damn.
Um, I would put big money on him.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily vouching for quality, but
Right. Right. Yeah. These are you're not saying this because he's your favorite artist. You're like, you think there's something there. There's
yeah,
potential. There's success there.
I think he's got a. buy your stocks now because I think he's got a lot of growth potential, let's say.
Okay. Fair takes, fair observations. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Um, Todd in the Shadows, I appreciate you taking the time. You've been great. And we will continue to watch.
All right. I'll continue to watch you too, I guess. Not that you need one.
You better.
Has your worst list gone up yet?
No, not yet. My list week is going to be after this coming week. I usually do it just before Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's a coming.
Be on it. You don't have to spoil it, though.
God, what is going to be on it? I know that.
I mean, you spent so much time listening to Morgan Wallen. Better.
Morgan Wallen's definitely going to be on it. What I'm trying to think of, and we'll dip after this. I'll leave the viewers with this. I can't remember her name. I'm going to find out. I knew her name. I saw it. It escaped from my mind. But what's a song that's definitely going to make my worst list is that 1965 song. What is it? Something like Jesse something.
Murph.
Jesse Murph. Yeah, that song is definitely going to be in my worst of the year list. For sure.
I understand that it is an attempt at satire, and I think a lot of people took it at face value, and I think you should understand that it is a joke that she absolutely did not have the chops to. Oh yeah,
for sure, no,
to pull off.
Yeah, I don't think anybody says that.
No, I've seen some people take it as like she genuinely.
I know that there are people who do understand it that way. I'm saying I don't think there's any artist out there who genuinely says like, well, my boyfriend's not cheating, and my boyfriend doesn't have Snapchat, so who cares if he slaps me? I don't think anybody says that genuinely, but it lands in such a way to where you're like, it's not clear. It should be clear, and it should be funnier. But it's just not. Like the humor is not there. Again, humor requires timing. Sometimes in music, getting the timing can be difficult.
Yeah. Boy, Jesse Murph. Stay tuned for my worst list too.
Okay. All right. Well, we both have our worst lists coming on the way. Todd in the Shadows, thank you again for making the time. You're the best, man.
All right. So long.